Hey everyone, welcome to Bold and Beautiful. I almost said welcome to the Adrienne Ross show. That's great. I love Adrienne Ross. Look, if you haven't tuned in before with one of our shows where Adrienne has been on this show, you've missed it. But you know what? You have a chance to go back, go onto YouTube or go to one of my social media sites or any major podcast platform, and you can catch both of us going back and forth and talking. So I love the Adrienne Ross show. I am not the Adrienne Ross show, but you can catch up with her as well. So Adrienne, welcome on my episode of Bold and Beautiful.
Well, Kia, I'm very thankful to be on Bold and Beautiful and that I get a break from the Adrienne Ross show to hang out with you and talk a little bit. Thank you.
Oh, so welcome, so welcome. Well, look, I want to jump into this conversation. I will post and give you some information, all those who are listening and watching, of how you can access the Adrienne Ross show. She's got some tremendous talks and episodes coming up at past episodes. So definitely she has been on the air since when, Adrienne?
On the Adrienne Ross show since
Yes.
It's March was 2021, March of 2021, the Adrienne Ross show. Yes.
Excellent, excellent. So she's got a lot of episodes from politics to sports to social issues to education to protecting the family to just Christian values, some amazing things. So please go check that out. Go check her show out on, again, all the major podcast platforms and of course YouTube. So anyway, want to jump right in. I have been so excited just listening to some of the highlights and watching some of the highlights of women's basketball, NCAA, March Madness. And I enjoy basketball, but I'm not an avid watcher. I can't say that, when I was in college, maybe I watched a little bit, but I have been so excited with just seeing the talent, these women athletes. What did they say on the news? 14.2 million people attended or were watching the Iowa versus what team? UConn.
You mean the Final Four?
The Final Four.
Final Four was Iowa versus LSU.
LSU, that's right. So 14.2 million.
No, I'm sorry. The Final Four was Iowa versus UConn.
UConn, that's what I thought. Okay.
I was thinking the 8 at first.
Okay, no. That's what I was thinking, UConn. And so 14.2 million, and that's been unheard of. And so when I heard that, I was like, well, what's going on? What am I missing? And of course, I've heard the news, and Caitlin Clark has been all over, and just the records that she has made, and it's just been phenomenal. But as I thought about that, I'm like, oh my goodness, we're really hearing and seeing women's sports moving to the forefront. We've got basketball. Last year we had the soccer team was our U.S. Top soccer team won FIFA, won the World Cup. And I thought that was tremendous. We've got amazing players in tennis, some of the youngest with Coco Gauff, and we've got some amazing athletes, swimmers making record after record. And the conversation I want to have today is this our season? Is this the season and the time for women's sports, women athletes to say, hey, we are here, and you have to recognize the talent, the ability, the effort, the hard work, the tenacity of women's sports. What do you say to that?
Well, I would say that it certainly should be. It certainly appears to be from what I'm recognizing now. Some sports, women have had more attention all along. Mm-hmm. Although I think there's always been that battle, women's sports really, from certain people, and not just from men, women also, maybe even more so from women. That's maybe a different conversation. But it does seem, particularly in basketball, as you mentioned with the tournament, there has been attention turned towards women. You hear men not only discussing, they're actually debating issues surrounding women's sports. And, you got to really be invested to take the time to debate the issues. And so I'd like to think so. I'd like to think that this is our time.
We're coming to this turning point. I was looking up some statistics, and this is a survey that was done by Adelphi University, and was just talking about the disparity of our top paid athletes. Actually, this was a survey that was shown in Forbes magazine, And the difference between men and women athletes is just astronomical. I mean, anywhere from like 80 to 300% lower than women make than male athletes. And even when they're getting sponsors, even when they're getting this turnout to these games, and so do you think that's going to change? Do you think that we're at that cusp where we say, you know what, like you said, men are even recognizing that, women's sports are a force to be reckoned with. We need to pay attention. Nike, Subway, you've got Caitlin Clark, you've got Angel Reese getting sponsors. You've got all these female athletes just getting these national or these corporate sponsors, which that hasn't really been done in the past decade.
Well, if you look at the collegiate game, college players weren't allowed to make money and to capitalize off of their talent.
Right.
Now, we could have a discussion, I suppose, about whether they should, but they do now fairly recently have, what they call NILs, name, image, and likeness money towards that. And so there's money to be made there. There's some who are sponsorship. In terms of salaries, I think with tennis, I think the women and the men, I think they make the same. I could be wrong, but I thought they changed that some time ago in terms of what women make and what the men make.
Well, we've got about, let's see, it says the top 100 tennis players, the men 1.5 million and change, the women 1.0 million.
In terms of tournaments or in terms of sponsors?
Let's see, I think this is in the tournaments, according to this survey. So tennis, it says anywhere from 15% to 100% more men make more than female athletes across the board. So that includes golf, soccer, baseball, and tennis.
Well, I got to look that up because I thought it was different between men. I thought it was the same.
Well, we'll have to fact check. Yeah, I mean, I've got some specifics. Okay, I've got let's see, who is that's messy. Who is a male tennis player? Top male tennis player. Let's see. I've got soccer. I've got basketball. I've got, oh my goodness.
Well, you can say Djokovic is one.
Djokovic, do I see him? I don't see his name right here. I've got Naomi Osaka making it. She's coming in at 51 million. Serena at 41 million. In terms of tennis, let's see. And that was as of 2022. So maybe there's there's been some movement.
Well, I think you'll have to look at the tournaments. Like how much does the men US Open winner make? How much does the women's US Open, winner make?
Right. Let's check it out.
Right. Which is what I was thinking of for the tournament. But either way, I think women and in basketball, it's nothing. I mean, I think I saw something yesterday that said that a rookie in the WNBA makes about $76,000. I think. Of course, they can still get sponsorships and things like that, but that's not a lot of money at all. Right. Now, with Caitlin Clark going into the draft, she may be able to command a lot more money. And I have known that there have been players in the past who've made more, but basically, that's where they're starting at. And, but it's a business ultimately. And so the more money you bring in, the more you're going to make and the more people have eyeballs on you and respect you. I mean, right. There was just the women's championship game, Iowa versus South Carolina. That's the most expensive ticket in the history. I think it was $40 and something, which is the most it's been for a woman's to see a women's game. So
right, that's pretty. I don't know. That excites me. I think I just looked up the statistics for the U.S. Open, and they said it's still in Sportico, and this came out in September of 2023. That the U.S. Italian Open paid out roughly 8.4 million to male players, and then 3.9 million to female players. So there's some disparity, I think, overall. If the gap is closing, I think, kudos to people who are recognizing that women athletes deserve to be paid. And just the notoriety. So what excites me about this is that there is, Caitlin Clark in this March Madness has really put the women's basketball at the college level on the map, I think, across the board. And obviously we've had some tremendous players. And like I said, I'm not an avid follower of any team per se, male or female. But, when things catch my ear, I wake up and recognize that, something's happening right now. So just want to share a quick clip here about, let's see, where Caitlin Clark is being interviewed. So let's just take a listen. Or actually, we'll watch it.
I spoke with Caitlin about everything from making college basketball history to her future as a pro in the WNBA. She's the dominating force, reshaping the landscape of college basketball.
It's been so much fun, but we're not done yet.
The University of Iowa guard Caitlin Clark, smashing records and captivating fans across the nation. And now she's ready to take her game to the next level.
Clark knocks down the three.
Why did you decide that this was the time to end your college career?
Well, I think there's pros and cons to both sides, and that's what made the decision so difficult. It was almost a win-win, but at the same time a lose-lose because I was giving up something, and I'm just kind of ready for the next chapter and a new challenge in my life. But I think the reason I decided to announce it when I did was just to have that closure, especially going into senior night.
Fans lining up for hours ahead of senior night. The last regular season game for number 22, and the moment Clark would make history.
For the record, he ties it with that one. This for college basketball history.
Becoming the all-time leading scorer in NCAA history.
Caitlin Clark becomes the all-time leading scorer.
We're playing the number 2 team in the country on senior night on our home court. You can't really script it any better. I honestly didn't realize it until everybody started going wild. And it's just cool to have so many people in the stands that, one, appreciate women's basketball, but they understand the history of it.
The 22-year-old has called Iowa home her entire life, and now she's on the cusp of achieving one of her biggest goals. You're moving on up. How do you feel about the next chapter?
I think it's something I'm ready for, and that's why I decided to make this move. But also, this is the place all I've known all my life. And that was the main reason of coming to the University of Iowa is I wanted to play for my home state. I wanted to do something that really had never been done before.
When you think about the WNBA draft, and I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say you're going to be the number 1 pick. I don't know. I got a crystal ball. You're going to be the number 1 pick. We know that Indiana, the Indiana Fever, have the top selection. They're already talking about their ticket sales. They're already talking about the demand. What is it, do you think, about your game that has people just can't wait to see you in the professional level?
I think it's just the style of basketball that I play, but also I think people love the fire and the emotion that I have and the smile I always have on my face. To be honest, I don't get nervous for games because I just know this is fun for me. People love the long shots. People love the good passing. People love the fire.
That fire blazing during last year's March Madness tournament. And there was a lot of talk about women athletes and being competitive and fierce and all that. I'm like, where you guys been? You've always been that way.
Yeah, I think it still does surprise me that people get a little distraught about women being competitive and getting into little arguments on the court or having a little trash talk. And that's how it should be. I think more than anything, it's surprising. You guys didn't know this is how women's sports are played. Come on.
Okay. I just, those clips just make me smile a little bit because I'm thinking, I was not an athlete, but even when I would go around and play, I was a cheerleader. So when I would kind of find myself in the court with my friends who were playing basketball or volleyball, even I would trash talk and they were like, Kia, sit down. But because there was just that competitive nature. What do you say to all that as a female athlete yourself?
Yes, listen, and I coached girls varsity basketball. It's amazing that people seem surprised or some even put off that women would have the emotion that guys have. We're competitive just as guys are competitive. And so that fire, that passion, that trash talking that goes on, sometimes you might say do less talking and just let your game do the talking. but that, some, I guess, are surprised, like, oh my goodness, it's just, listen, we want to win. We're competitive. And so, hey, let the fire flame.
Let the fire flame. Well, and it's entertaining. I mean, like I said, I haven't watched a full game in a long time, but once I start seeing the clips, once I start watching the game, I'm all in, and really can be any sport. But just to see the talent and the agility of these players and the massiveness. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Cardoso today in South Carolina, she's 6'7". And just all over the court. I mean, she was just dominating. So
Yeah. I wanted Iowa to win.
right.
But one thing, you can teach a lot of things in sports. You can't teach height. And so trying to defend 6'7", it's like, so they triple team her, but Carolina's undefeated for a reason, South Carolina. So if you collapse on Cardozo, and then they pass it out and they're hitting shots from outside, and then they take shots, they get 2, 3, 4 attempts. I mean, because they can rebound the ball. Cause like, I don't get to bring a ladder out here. You know what I mean? So, it's really difficult, because I'm not taking anything away from South Carolina. They're talented in other ways, but you cannot, that height is a real deal, Right. So 6'7".
6'7". I was just picturing that. I was like, wow, that's crazy. Yeah. But even Angel Reese, I mean, she's pretty tall too. She seems like a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I think she's about 6'3". Yeah, so you're 6'3", you can compete. I mean, you can kind of compete with, but there's a difference between 6'3" and 6'7", So yeah, it's tough.
Absolutely. So as a female athlete, I mean, you played ball, you played several sports, you ran track, right? You played volleyball.
I played volleyball, softball, and
softball. And you said you were soccer?
In junior high, 7th grade.
Well, look, it all counts. I think our kids, Cherie played all the sports. Every sport she could play. She even snuck out and to play softball. And I'm like, Cherie, please, I need a break.
I know, right?
She played volleyball. She played basketball. And what was great for her, and really, she enjoyed volleyball. And she liked basketball because she could block, and she's got that long pink knee reach, Cordell reach, and the big giant hands, And so she was great on defense for basketball. But she really enjoyed softball. We didn't get that much in, and she played soccer. I mean, she played all the sports. Everything that she played. And which I appreciated it because, and definitely encouraged them to do it because there's something entertaining about watching female athletes, I think.
I agree with you. I mean, I'm a big tennis person, and I mean, I love the Williams sisters and obviously basketball. And, when you watch this stuff, like the tournament or throughout the year, like just Caitlin Clark, it makes you want to, like, I wish I could go back.
Right.
And do it again, but you don't get that shot, and I miss coaching, and then I got some of my former players, so inboxing me talking trash, during the game, or one of them today was like, Coach, you were a combination of Pat Summitt and Dawn Staley and Gino Auriemma, and that meant a lot to me too. Wow. Just kind of makes you reflect on because it's so much more. I mean, sports teaches so much, and for women in particular we are often going through things at young ages with our bodies and, feeling insecure about our bodies or this or that. And sports teaches discipline, but it also teaches that self-confidence, how to embrace the bold and the beautiful that you talk about. There's so much involved in sports, that I love.
I love that. So take me through a Coach Ross. Take me through a warm up or a pep talk of your seniors, your varsity players on big game. What does that sound like? What does that look like?
Well, I coached 6 years, high school in Hudson, New York, and my first 2 years were horrible. So it probably didn't matter what I said because I came in this disciplinarian and they were like, what, And so whatever I said, it did, I don't know if it mattered to some of them. And then then I went into 2 years and I had a great assistant coach in Christopher Romano, and he knew a whole lot more than I did. And so I always considered myself a great motivator, not so great with X's and O's, but I learned a lot from Chris Romano. And so the last 2 years I had with another assistant, Kristen Fonda, and I could always tell them, listen, we are going to be the most disciplined team. We're going to be, if we ever, I never mentioned losing because I didn't believe in mentioning losing. But no matter what happened, it's not going to come down to us not being conditioned enough. So we were going to be the better conditioned. As far as a pep talk or anything, you do what you've been doing all along. You do what you've been practicing all along. You have to believe that you are the better team every time you step on the court. And whether you're talking about a sport or whether you're talking about life, I wrote about this in my book also. You have to believe you're going to win. And because that translates to how you play. You have to be confident. You have to know, guys, team, you put in the work. And so now that work comes together and it translates into victories. It translates into, putting points on the board and tracking down loose balls and playing defense and all that stuff. And if you can believe that you're the better team, then you can believe that you can win. But you can't believe you're the better team if you haven't put in the work. Right. So I've got to believe that I've put in the work. And I've got to believe that my teammate has put in the work. If either of those things is missing, I don't have the confidence that I need to have, right? So that's how we went about it. We work hard in practice. We practiced my last season coaching. We practiced 6 days a week. Wow. So Saturdays we're up in there at 8:00. And we knew, the community knew that we could win. We, because we won the Patroon Conference the year before, first time ever in the history of the school, and then we repeated undefeated until the last game. The elimination, went to finals of sectionals and lost in a very painful way my last year, but the community were, if I didn't have practice, if I missed a Saturday, I think I might have missed one, and parents were mad, because we've got every reason to win and we want you on point, right? Right. So you've got to pull all those things together and let them know that they've been made for this moment and they prepared for it.
That's incredible. Do you think, generally speaking, women play harder or they have more heart than men?
I think, I don't want to say that as a blanket statement, but there is something different because women play very much without the accolades that men play, and so they're playing, many of them, they know there's not a $30 million contract waiting for them, or so they're playing out of sheer passion, love for the game, for their teammates, and I think that goes a long way. They're getting up Saturday morning. They may not have, when they go have a game on Tuesday, they may not have as many people in the stands. Right. In your high school game, for example, college. It's turning around now for sure, but they got obviously more people in the stands. And so there's that certain passion that I think, an appreciation that you have to have as a woman athlete to have made it to the point that you are. Yeah.
Right. That's a powerful statement. I think, and like you said, of course, generally speaking, you don't have those sponsorships or the accolades or the notoriety that, most men's sports automatically and organically have. So when we hear that that we are getting some record breakers, Caitlin Clark, talk a little bit about that record. She has just,
which one?
Not just women's sports, women college basketball, but men's college basketball. And I'll go to a clip in a little bit when, Dawn Staley kind of gives her a shout out, and just like you've changed, she says, you've changed the face of college basketball forever. So tell me what you think, your thoughts about that first.
First of all, this girl is otherworldly. I mean, she's out of this world good. And she does, as Dawn Staley pointed out, have carried a lot on her shoulder. She's the reason. I've been saying today that this is the house that Caitlin built. And not to say that there weren't great players before. Caitlin mentioned in the post-game comments that, welcome to the show for those who are late arriving,
Right.
And she wasn't just speaking about herself, but she's saying there've been a lot of great players.
Yeah.
And there have been, but Caitlin Clark has, yes, the record for the most points of Division I NCAA basketball, male or female athletes. She's leads in assists and 3-pointers in tournaments, leads in assists in the tournament. I mean, I can't even start naming them because there's so many.
Sure.
She's the Naismith Player of the Year for the second straight year, the AP Player of the Year for the second straight year. She broke another record on during the championship game, 18 points in the first quarter, never been done before. So the list is this long. She continues to break records all the time. She is a transformational player. She has drawn attention from men and women that we have not seen before. And there are various reasons for that. But number one is the way she plays, she can shoot the ball as someone said the other night, from the future. That's how.
Right. I was like, what? Look at that shot. I had to replay. You watch it.
But she does something else that all great players do. And that is she makes everyone else around her better. Because she's so good, she makes everyone better. Because I read something, someone said, oh, she's a ball hog. And I said, she also leads in assists. So you can't, a ball hog doesn't lead in assists because they don't distribute the ball. She has such great court vision and just delivers the ball spot on, pinpoint. And there are aspects of her game that will improve. But I tell you what, I'll take Caitlin Clark over anybody.
Right. What do you say? What do you say if you had to give Caitlin advice about taking Ice Cube's offer, the big three league, for what was it, $5 million? $5 million?
$5 million, yeah.
What would advice? Her goal, her heart was to go to the WNBA, and I don't know if she has already said that she wasn't going to take the deal. I don't know that I haven't heard that, but that could be the case. What would your advice be?
My advice would be you are a woman basketball player. Don't take the bait. I have to believe that she's smart enough to know that she's not going to, forfeit her WNBA dreams. No doubt April 15th is the draft. She'll go number one, in the draft. She's not going to forfeit that to play in a 3-on-3 league with a bunch of men who were former NBA players. So my goal would be to continue the wave of what you've accomplished, and the eyeballs that she put on college women's basketball. She can do that to the WNBA. There are some great players there, obviously, but she can continue to ride that wave. And that's what she should be doing. This stuff with playing with men, that shouldn't be the standard. Right. They're not the standard,
I love that. They are not the standard. Come on,
ladies,
let's go.
Like that's supposed to be. I mean, I guess to a certain extent, you kind of feel like that's a compliment. Like he thinks that she can play against the guys, and you can listen. I've beaten guys playing basketball at times, right? But night after night after night after night. Imagine the 6'7" Cordozo. Imagine the 6'7" guy.
Right, exactly.
That you're going up against. Somebody's going to get hurt, as happens to be the case. Not to get too deep, but as happens to be the case whenever transgender women, i.e., men, compete against women or girls, and it's a dangerous conversation that people are having along those lines.
Well, absolutely. And I think you bring up a good point. And just to, get our feet wet in that conversation briefly, because I know you're going to talk some more about that another time. I may jump into the conversation at another point, at another show. But in how important, and I've been talking to my students about this and asking them questions, should transgenders play in a female league when women have worked so hard and, sweat, tears, things that have been sacrificed, and to be in the forefront and to do what they do and to do what they do well for a transgender male to come in and just, have the opportunity to dominate on that front. Should that be?
Well, since my name is Adrienne Ross and not Dawn Staley of South Carolina, I'm going to answer and say absolutely not. Now, she was just asked that question, and unfortunately, she said they should be able to play. And I find that sad because I was already thinking about that when I look at a Caitlin Clark or an Angel Reese or Hannah Hidalgo or Juju Watkins or all these names. I see these women, like you said, they work so hard. They are so good. But would we be hearing about Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese, or would we be hearing about them if a man is competing against them? It would have robbed them of so much. And so it's an absolutely absurd conversation. Listen, there's a saying, stay in your lane. This is the place to stay in your lane. And women have worked hard. People like Dawn Staley have paved the way. You are absolutely delusional if you think that you're going to have the success playing against big old strong men. You're delusional on that level. I can go down to the YMCA and I might be able to, whatever, but not on the collegiate and professional level. Right. And even not in high school, though. We've had volleyball players who've gotten hurt, concussions and everything when a guy pretending to be a girl spiked the ball and all that. So let's enjoy it. We got here now, you know what I mean?
Right, let's enjoy it.
And if we're going to do that, then take away women and men's leagues and just have one league.
Integrate it. Absolutely. So to that point, and my students, almost all of my students say the exact same thing. I do have some exceptions that my seniors who say that, there are certain sports where it may not matter. If they're individual sports, maybe it doesn't, maybe there's the competition. Right. Maybe it doesn't matter, but the rules, and of course they've debated it, and the rules are such that the rules are different. The size of the balls are different. The size of their equipment is, it's just different, so.
Listen, the size of their body's different.
Right.
And
absolutely.
not to mention young ladies should be able to go into a locker room.
Yes.
And feel safe and not feel violated.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, like with Leah Thomas and swimming.
Right.
And he was like a man fully intact.
Yes.
And that's just not, that's a no-go,
And that's just insane. I listened to interviews of Riley talking about Leah Thomas and just the pressure that she had to deal with and her whole team had to deal with, and saying move over, to the point where they tied in, which is, kudos to her. She tied this man and then was forced to give the award to him. And so, she said it was absolutely, absolutely ridiculous. And so, kudos to her. I feel when I listened to her interview, several interviews of her, I thought of, she's like a modern day Esther, for such a time as this. And unfortunately, she is in this situation, but what a great time to speak out for this at how old? She's 23, I think, at this time in her life, to have dealt with that and say, you know what, I'm going to stand for truth. I'm going to stand for righteousness. I'm going to stand for what I believe, what I worked for. So, and we've got to talk about it. We've got to have that conversation.
It is an important conversation. My understanding, like I said, I said how Dawn Staley answered the question. My understanding was that the Iowa coach, Bluter, was also asked the question. I didn't see any video of it, but her response was, that's a good question, but it's not a question for now. And I think Staley might have done a better job of she didn't seem like she wanted to answer it, but she did. And and I have a lot of respect for her. I've watched her career as a player in the WNBA, as a coach. She's intense, she's passionate, and kudos to South Carolina for winning. But I hope that she rethinks and retracts for the sake of her even her own team. Like, really, they work too hard and they deserve to not have, their successes wiped away, their records, non-existent. Girls in high school deserve to get scholarships and not have to go up against guys. We have Title IX for a reason, right? So,
Right, absolutely. Yeah, all of these things have paved the way so that women can really have freedom to play at their best, to be athletes, to be, major athletes. And we shouldn't, we should celebrate them. We should not take that away or threaten the opportunity for them to do that. That just makes no sense.
and besides, the women's game is a pure game. I've always said, and I've heard men who know the game, insecure men run their mouths and say, who watches women's, but, it's a pure game because of the fact, and I've said this for years, because men have to rely a lot on strength and they're dunking the basketball. And you look at the score now in the NBA, it's over 100 like every night. And I'm like, does anybody play defense, right? But most women, there are some, but most women are not dunking the basketball, and they have to rely on being fundamentally sound. So if you truly appreciate the game and not just a bunch of slam dunks, then you generally are going to appreciate the women's game because it's a pure game. No disrespect to the guys, because some are playing good basketball. But fundamentally, listen, if you're not a woman fundamentally sound, you're not going to get very far.
No. I mean, and I think that says something about women, not only in sports, but just in general, and not to bash men by any means, because everybody has their purpose and their place. But, we are, I think, inherently multidimensional. And, women typically have the inherent desire and the need and the proclivity to multitask on several levels. And, the field, the court, the pool, the track, wherever is not exempt from that. So, I love what you said, we've got to be purposeful and we can't be swayed. Either there's passion there or there's not, and I think that's pretty exciting to understand.
Yeah, it is exciting. And you know what? Their passion, sports passion, these ladies right now in particular, it's contagious.
It is.
And people are, I saw a Facebook friend, she commented the other day, and she said, I think it was the last game, maybe it was the Final Four, and she said she was watching, somebody she was with was watching the game, and she tuned in, and she was just like, this Caitlin Clark. She said, I have not been aware. I have not. And she's like, but I'm a fan now. Like, I'm all in. Like, where have I been? And I said,
That's how I feel.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm like, she's like, I'm glad I'm dialed in. I said, I'm glad you are. But yeah, there are people who never paid attention. Not that there weren't some good ones, but Caitlin is extra special. And so and she's different, she's not your typical, what we have, the face of women's basketball in particular.
Right.
And she's from Iowa.
Right.
Okay. So
you said what good can come from Iowa?
Good, right? A lot of good can come from Iowa, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't appreciate the good that comes from Iowa.
Right.
And so, but it's not like they had some, bunch of championships or anything like that. But she stands out for a couple reasons. But number one, again, she's just absolutely phenomenal. And that's why we should be celebrating her. She's had to take a lot of heat, a lot of people, a lot of hate, and a lot of heat. And you know what? No apologies for being great.
Right. Oh, I love that. No apologies for being great. No. Look, let me share before we finish this conversation. Let me just share this last clip. This is Dawn Staley and her end when they're congratulating her. And I just liked what she said. So I'm not too keen on the comments that her answering to that question, but I do, like you said, there's some appreciation for Let's appreciate what can be appreciated, right?
Yes,
so let's join this clip. And I want to make a quick correction. For my mistake of saying CBS reported this clip, was actually ABC. So
I'd like to present the 2024 National Championship Trophy to Coach Dawn Staley and the South Carolina Gamecocks.
I just wanted to show this part because I like confetti too.
Raining confetti.
Mm-hmm. And it's pink. I mean, who could forbid?
Yeah.
Staley likes confetti. We know this. Coach, every person on this stage has had a critical role. I look at Sanaya here with the trophy. All of the players, Bree Hall stepping up, hitting crucial shots. How was this a collection of effort tonight to achieve perfection? Before I do anything, I gotta give honor to the Most High God for allowing us to be back at the same place in which we had sad tears. And I just want you to know that the God I serve, when he closes a door, he opens up a door that's giving you unimaginable success. This is uncommon favor. It really is. And you know, I thought you were going to say when he closes the door, he opens a window, because the glass is really why you won this game tonight, the rebounding. How do you describe the impact that Camila Cardoso has had on your team, a career high 17 boards tonight? Camila Cardoso was not going to let us lose a game in the NCAA tournament. I really would just like to say that I have to congratulate Iowa on an incredible season. Awesome. And I want to personally thank Caitlin Clark for lifting up our sport. She carried a heavy load for our sport, and it just is not going to stop here on the collegiate tour. But when she is the #1 pick in the WNBA draft, she's gonna lift that league up as well. So Caitlin Clark, if you're out there, you are one of the GOATs of our games, and we appreciate you. Thank you, Coach.
Okay, so I love when people rally around great people, great athletes. When there's something to celebrate, let's celebrate, and let's celebrate together. So I appreciate it, though. Yes, Iowa did not win, but Don Staley recognized that Caitlin Clark is, like you said, someone special, something special to the game, and that she has really helped redefine the face of women's basketball, and she's going to take that to the WNBA. And so I just wanted your last few comments about that, and as we get ready to end this episode.
Well, that was very classy of Dawn Staley, and I'm glad she did it. And she probably recognized, because very often when you make comments, your first comment is congratulating the other team, right? And so they're all excited and all that, and she was full of emotion. And then it probably just hit her. Listen, I can't let this moment pass without acknowledging what a great team Iowa is. And then she took it even a step further and acknowledged Caitlin Clark, because Caitlin Clark has unfortunately had a lot to battle with, just the haterade, as they say. Mm-hmm. And so for that, and they she said it again in the press conference, the post-game press conference at the table. Mm-hmm. And then also they told Caitlin Clark about it at her press conference. And she was said how much it meant to her, because she has a lot of respect for Dawn Staley. To be acknowledged for what she has done for the game is a wonderful thing, and I'm glad Dawn Staley. I'm glad she did that. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, look, thank you so much for just being on the show and adding some expertise. Like I said, I'm like team women. Woo! All right. So, and just when you see great players, I mean, no offense to the guys that are getting as they play, and I'm sure we'll see some of those things. SNL, Saturday Night Live, did a little sketch. We try to catch some of the clips of it, because they're just, sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're not. But this one, they said, they did a sketch on women's basketball, and they're giving the highlights, and it was somebody, Keenan playing Charles Barkley, and saying that, which guys are playing now? Wait a minute, who? That guy's playing that guy. Just like, who are they?
Well, I've not heard a whole lot about the guys as much, because the women have dominated the conversation.
Yeah. So, I mean, I had to laugh, but obviously, guys, no offense. We hope you do well. Kudos to you. You will have your limelight surely.
Yeah.
But I'm so thankful that this is the season. I think for women's sports, this is the time where we're closing the gap. I think in not only salaries and pay, but and sponsorship. I mean, this has not been a thing. And like you said, with college sports, where that's opening up so that athletes are going to be able to get paid in some avenues. So hopefully that continues because a lot of money is being made. 14.2 million watching the game, and then of course the stands have been filled night after night after night. That money's going somewhere. So anyway.
Absolutely. And shout out to Caitlin Clark, number 22. God always does special things with number 22.
Say a little more about that. Was that your number?
That's my number was 24.
24.
But 22 is a special number for me. But that's a different story. God
story for another time. Well, Adrienne Ross, thank you so much. Listen, you guys, check out Adrienne's show this week, the Adrienne Ross Show. Adrienne, tell us where we can find your show. Even the last couple of weeks have been phenomenal as you talked about some really controversial topics to do with Caitlin Clark.
Yes, I am on YouTube. It is just go find the Adrienne Ross Show, and then also the Adrienne Ross Show on podcast platforms, and also my writing and my podcasting on Substack, adrienneross.substack.com. And you mentioned a couple controversial ones that had to do with Caitlin Clark. And so you can go over to the Adrienne Ross Show and check out what those are. That would just open up a whole new conversation there. But yeah, quite a bit of response to the last two episodes about Caitlin Clark. And then I have one that's this week's is talking about women's basketball with some really exciting guests, one formerly from ESPN.
Excellent. So I'm excited about seeing that. So thank you for taking the time to be on my show, Bold and Beautiful. Look, if you haven't caught this, if you haven't shared on my show, if you haven't seen the show and this is your first time because you heard that Adrienne Ross was going to be on my show, look, share, like, subscribe, post, repost. And we're looking forward to some great things. On my next show, crossing my fingers, praying that this works out, is a great friend of mine who's just done phenomenal things in running. Doc Holliday Golden is going to be with us next time. And so I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. So look, have a great night. Have a great day. Whatever it is you're doing, have a great week. God bless you, and go out there and be bold and beautiful because God's got you.
Thank you, Kia.
Thank you.